Okay, so remember when I told you we were going to build out an entirely different app for our users? Well, it's time to do that, and we're going to add the user portion of our website. So let's start by taking a look at the database here and seeing what we have so far, and then what we are going to add here. So at this point, we have three database tables, or three models. We have a project model, we have a review model, and a tag model. Now, when we talked about the concept of apps, we talked about separating our application or our website into different apps, so that way we don't have massive files and then a bunch of conflicts that may just get really messy at some point. So what we're going to do is we are going to start building out these database tables. So we're going to build out a profile, we're going to build out a skills model or a skills table, and we're also going to build out a messages table. Now, these are not going to be in the same app as these three right here. So they're going to be in the same project, but they are going to be in different apps. Now the user model, we're not going to have to worry about that because that's already built into Django, but that's something that we are going to connect to. So even though we're going to build out these different tables and different apps, they're still going to connect with each other. We still need a project connected to a profile, and we still need a review connected to a profile. So these two apps will actually be able to communicate with each other. So with that being said, let me pull up another picture that I just made. And what this shows here is the structure of our apps inside of our project. So dev search is that project. That's what we built up when we ran Django admin start project. And we were just working within the projects app here. So we have our database models, our URLs, and our templates. Now what we're going to do is within the same project, we are going to create a user app and completely separate this to where we have our own database models, our own URL routing, and templates that store templates just for the user's app. So let's go ahead and start building this out. So I'm going to close this, and we're going to go into our text editor. And with our project, we have dev search and we have our projects app. Let's go ahead and create that new app. So if you remember how to do that, we're just going to open up our terminal here, and I'm going to go ahead and run Python manage.py start app. And then we have to give it the app name. So we're going to do space, and the app name is going to be users for me here. So we're just going to go ahead and hit that. And now we have a new folder here. So we have a users folder. In here, it's going to look a lot like projects here. We're obviously going to add to it. But in here, we can see our migrations, which there are none for the users app. We can see our admin.py file, models. This is all empty, and our views. So what we need to do is first connect this app, and then we're going to start building out some templates and URLs and just configuring this before we actually start modifying it. So the first thing I want to do is anytime we create a new app here, we want to go into our settings.py file, and we want to register this app with our Django project. So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and specify the app name. So we're going into users. So we'll start writing that. We're going into users, then we're going into apps.py. So apps. And then we're going into apps.py, and we want to connect it to users config. So users config like that. So now when we run our migrations, Django will actually know to grab all the models and everything from this app and also migrate that. So we need to register this if we want this to work. So we have our app installed inside of installed apps here. We just added that to our project. Django now knows about this. So let's close this out, and let's actually render out some pages and configure the URL routing. So in here, inside of users, the first thing I want to do is actually create a template to render. So within users, because we're going to have templates just for the users app, we're going to do what we did with projects here, where we created a templates folder and then a folder called with the app name, or a folder with the app name. So let's go ahead and go into users here. Let's add a new folder. And this is going to be called templates, and it'll store templates just for the users app. Now within templates, we need to create another folder, and this is going to be called users. So the app name is users. That's why we called it this. So in here, let's create a file within our templates folder. So this is going to be called profiles. So we're going to list out the user profiles. So profiles.html. Now in here, we want to extend from the main template. So in the root directories templates folder, we want to inherit from main.html. So that's why we put it out there, because that template's not associated with a particular app. So in here, we'll just do extends, and then we can point to main.html like that. So we also need to add in the block tags here. So we'll just do block content. And this is all stuff we've done at this point. So It's going to be a little bit repetitive. We're just connecting the new app here, and then end block content. So let's write some kind of message that we can see, so we can actually see something to be an output, and we'll just say user profiles. Okay, so we have our template. That's the first part in the step here. And within our users app now, what we want to do is create a view for this. So we're going to continue using function-based views. So in our users app inside of the views.py file, so we'll create a function here, and we're just going to call this profiles. And let's pass in request here. And then we want to return. This is going to take in render, or the render method right here that's there by default. And in here, we'll just pass in request. Then we want to get that template. So we'll go into the users app /profiles.html. So we did, if we go back to the projects app here inside of these views, we did projects, and then we specify the template name. Now that we're in the users app, we're going into our templates here. So let's close that out. We're going into users inside of this folder, and then we're rendering the template. So profiles.html. So now that we have the view, let's go ahead and connect the URLs here. So by default, apps don't get a URLs file, so we're going to create it. So we're just going to go ahead and create a urls.py file. And from here, we first need to import that path method. So we're going to do from Django.urls import path. Now after that, we want to import our URLs here. So we'll just do path like that. And we're just going to do from.import views. So from this directory, we're going to import all of these views. Now we need a URLs pattern here. So we'll do URL patterns. So we actually need to add in some paths here, and that's just going to be a string. So URL patterns. I want to make sure I spelled that right. And let's create our first path here. So at this point, this is going to be the main page to this, to this app here. So we're going to leave that as an empty string. Now after that, we're going to go into views.profiles. What do I call that view? Yeah, profiles here. So profiles. And then we also want to give this a name. So we'll just do name, and this is going to be profiles. Okay, so we want to add in a comma there, and now we have a view that will be rendered when we go to this URL path here, and now we want to configure the actual URL path. So we want to go into our root directory's urls.py file, and we need to do the same thing that we did here for our project. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it, and now every single path that goes into users and then / will be sent into the users app. So we're going into users, and then we're connecting it to this URLs file here. So I hope that makes sense. Anything that starts with users, we go into this file, and we let the users app take care of the URL routing. So we're just going to render this template. So let's see how everything's working at this point. So we have our template, we have our URLs connected, and a view to actually work with that. So if we go into our project here, we can now do / users. And now that gives me the users template. So this is the template we just created. It's inheriting from the main template. And that's what we have inside of our users template, profiles, and there we go. So there's a few things that I want to do here. So the first one is I actually want to go into our nav bar, and I want to connect the profiles into the navigation bar. So we can actually go in here into the templates in the root directory. We'll go into nav bar. And let's go to this developers link right here. And we're just going to take this URL right here, paste that in, and we're just going to do profiles. So that's the name of it. So we're going after the name. Make sure we're using that. So once we have that, let's go ahead and refresh this. Now we can go to projects and developers here. So there's one other thing that I want to do here. So by default, I want developers right here, the profiles, to be the home page when a user first logs in. So what we're going to do is completely restructure the URL routing for our apps here. So right now, if I go to projects, we can see that's the home page, and that's the page that we visit when we first come to the website. Also, when we click on the logo. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go ahead and update that logo. So first of all, we're going to go into the logo here and update that to profiles. So now profiles will be our home page. So if I go here to profiles now, if I refresh that, we're now going to be sent to users. Now we also want to update that. So when we go to that home page, we want this to be the users page. So to actually modify this, we're going to have to restructure our URLs here a bit. So I'm going to go to the root directory, and what I'm going to do here is basically say anytime someone goes to the domain /projects, send them to all those URLs inside of the projects URLs. So these right here. So now all these URLs will be pre-appended. So the projects URL will be simply /projects, and then that's it. So that's going to render this view. And then if we want to go to a single projects page, a user is going to be taken to /projects, /project, and then the ID. So we're going to modify these. So we're just going to change it to this. And then all we have to do is change this back to an empty string. So it's going to take a little bit of work here, but let's just see what happens. So now if I go to users, that's not going to give me anything. But if I go to the home page, now we are in this profiles page. So because all I did was simply change up the root directory URLs path, we are now going to change up the entire structure. So if I go to projects, that takes me to projects now. If I go to an individual project, that takes me to projects /project, and then the project ID. So I want to fix that, but we'll get into that in a second. So if I go to the home page or the logo, that takes me to this page, and we'll style this in the next video. So that's the cool thing about having those dynamic names in the URLs here. By referencing the name right here instead of the actual URL, we're able to simply change up our entire file structure as long as the name stays the same. This path right here does not matter. That'll automatically get updated in our template. If we didn't have that, we would have to go into every single part where we reference that and modify that. So now that we have our profiles as our homepage, we have that part taken care of. I wanted to create the app, handle the URL routing, and show you all that. What we want to do next is actually create our profile model. So we're going to go into users here inside of our users app, and inside of models.py, this is where we are going to create our profile here. So let's go ahead and start building this out. In here, what I'm going to do is create a class here, and I'm just going to call this profile. So we're going to have a user profile. This is going to inherit from models.model. Then we just want to go ahead and add in the colon there. Let's close this out, and let's make our first attribute. So the first attribute we're going to have here is actually going to be connected to a user. And I know this probably seems a little bit tricky, but let me create it and I'll explain here. So the user here is going to have a one-to-one relationship with a user model. So to create a one-to-one relationship, it's going to be a one-to-one field like that. So 1-to-1 field. So capitalize every first letter there. And we have to specify the model that we're going to connect to. So let's go into our diagram really quick and let's explain. So Django has a user model built in for us, and this is how we're able to log in. Like when we go to the admin panel, we specify a user. So we type in some user information, and that's how we log in. So the user model is already here, and we have a few users in the database. So that's used for authentication. Now to actually store user information, I like to create something called a user model. So it's just another table that's going to extend that information. So we can add in things like social links, we can add in a location, a bio, and so on. Now the reason why I do this is, in theory, I could modify the user model, but that can get a little bit dangerous. If I modify the user model and then want to change something later, this model has a lot more dependent on it than something like a user profile would. So if this model breaks, all authentication breaks, a lot can go wrong with our application. So instead of modifying it, what I like to do is replicate it. So I basically do the same thing. I take the username, we store that information, email, we change the first and last name to just a name here, and then we add in information. Now we create what we would call a one-to-one field. So every single user in the database will have a profile, and every profile will have one user, and the profile will get automatically generated anytime we create a user. So I just want to make sure you're not confused there. In theory, you don't have to do this, but if you start modifying the user model, that can start making things tricky. So it's just out of the scope of what I want to talk about today. So in this case, we're just going to create the user model relationship here. So in this case, to actually import the built-in Django user model, we can do from Django.contrib. And this is going to be from auth here. So it's an authentication model, which means that it's used for authentication. So we're going into auth models, and then with the capital U, import user. So that's the user model. So I'm going to go ahead and paste this in here, and I would recommend you do a Google search for this. So let's just do Django user model, and let's look at this. So user model look at all the attributes and everything that it has here. So it's just a class here. It has all these attributes. It gives you detailed information about them, all the values, and so on. So these are all the attributes and all the methods for it, and so on. So I'd recommend you check out the Django documentation, but that's a very valuable model. Now, there's a few things that we want to do here. So on delete, this is going to be a very important step. On delete, what I want to do is make sure we delete the user profile. So on delete, we're going to do models.cascade. So anytime a user is deleted, the profile is deleted. And then later on, we will reverse this relationship to where if we happen to delete the profile from the admin panel, the associated user will also get deleted. So we want to delete this anytime a user gets deleted. Now, for now, I want to set null to be true. So I want to be able to create a profile and set that to true. And I also want to allow blank to be true. And we'll probably modify this later. So that's the first part of the user model. It's just a one-to-one relationship, or the profile model. It's just a one-to-one relationship with the user model. Okay, so the next one, we're going to just add in a name. I don't care for the first and last name method here. So we'll just do name. I just want to store users' information. We don't need that much details about them. And we'll just do char field here. And remember, the character field needs a max length here. We'll set that to 200. I don't think anyone's name would be longer than that. And let's just do blank. We'll set that to true. And then we'll also do null, and that's also going to be set to true. So I do want to keep these values blank, and we'll see why later. And after that, we can do email, and that's going to be set to models.email field. So this is going to be pretty much the same thing as a char field, except for it's going to ensure that there is an email there. So I believe it goes by the @ symbol, and we'll set the max length to 500. I'm trying to think of what the biggest email could be, but just in case we want users to be able to use one that may be super long, so we'll leave it at 500. So let's set null to true and blank to true. And then after that, what I want is some kind of intro for the user. So this will be like a short intro. So this is going to be like your title or something like that. I couldn't really think of a name for this, but something that says, hey, I'm a full stack developer that does X, whatever that is. So this is simply going to be a char field. So we'll paste that in here. And then we want a bio. So the bio will be your actual description. So we'll just do models.text field. And that's going to be a longer text field. And for this, let's just take blank and null. We'll paste that in for the bio here. And now we want the profile pic. So we'll just do profile underscore image. And for this, we already added in that image processing library of Pillow when we did that earlier for the project model. So we'll just do image field. So we don't need to reinstall that. That's already installed. And we want null to be set to true. So we're going to do a few things here. So null will be true. Blank will also be true. So we'll set that. And what I want to do here is change where this picture gets uploaded. So right now, by default, whenever I create a profile and upload a picture, it's going to go into static and then into images. What I want to do is create a folder specifically for profile pictures. So we're just going to do profiles like this, and that's going to be our images and profile images. So it's a folder within the images folder. So at this point, what I could do is just do upload. So upload underscore to, and we're just going to do profiles like this. So profiles and then /. So that's going to go into the images folder, and we're telling it go into the profiles folder and throw the image in there. So that's how we can actually route exactly where it's going to go to. Now for the default image, we're also going to do something different here too. So we'll do default here, and let's go ahead and actually add in a picture into profile. So I want to use the default picture here. So in your resources folder, you're going to find a picture or a folder called profile pics here. And we're just going to take this user default here. So we're going to copy this, and then we'll go into our app, into static, into images, and then into profiles, and we'll paste that in here. So it's going to be user-default, and that is a PNG file. So let's go ahead and add that. So in this case, we're just going to do quotes here, and we'll do profiles. So go into the profiles folder, and then let's just do user-default. And then .png. And I just want to make sure that's the correct one. So whatever picture you're using, make sure you specify that. And I think I could just do lowercase. So we'll see that in a second. If it doesn't work, we might have to capitalize that, but I don't think that'll make a difference. So we're uploading to the profiles folder, and we're also getting the default from the profile folder. So user default, where is that? Okay, user default PNG. Okay, so that's lowercase, never mind, that will work. I was selecting the wrong one. Okay, so after our profile picture, let's go ahead and add in a few options for some links here. So what I'm gonna do is actually take the name value and let's paste that in right here. And this is gonna be social. And then we're gonna add in the prefix of social, and then we'll do GitHub. So any GitHub repo that you want somebody to check out, we're gonna copy that, and let's go ahead and go one line down. We'll do 4 of these. So we'll do social, GitHub, and there's different ways we can do this. We could do a different model for this, but I'm just gonna write it right in the profile model. So we'll do social, Twitter, and then maybe you want somebody to check out your LinkedIn. It's also a good one. So LinkedIn, that looks a little bit weird, but I'm pretty sure that's how you spell LinkedIn. Okay, so LinkedIn, and then after LinkedIn, let's just do YouTube. So I have a YouTube channel. If you have one, you might want to put that into your bio. And let's just do social, and we'll just do website. So if you want to add more, you can. We can also extend this with a different model so users can maybe add different links on their own, things that may not be listed here, but that should do for now. So at this point, I like where we're at here. And what I'm going to do is actually go into the projects app, and we're going to go into models, and let's just copy an ID field and a created field from one of these models. So we just want to make sure that we have a UUID. So let's go in here, let's create some space and paste that in. So we want to know when this profile was created. So we're just taking a timestamp, and we're also setting the ID field. Now for the string value, let's go ahead and create that now. So let's just create the method here, a double underscore str, double underscore, we'll pass in self. And then for the return value, let's just do return. And this is going to be self.user.username. And in this case, just in case the user doesn't exist, this needs to be a string value. So let's wrap that in that string method here. So that just ensures that this is a string. So that's something that I didn't mention. If you want to use like some kind of number maybe here, any kind of integer field or anything like that, you're going to need to make sure you wrap that in that string method. So you're going to convert that into a string. So let's go ahead and save this. And then I want to run some migrations here. So UUID is not defined. So let's go in here and let's grab that. So we forgot to import that. So I'll actually just manually import. We'll just import UUID, save that, and let's run the migration. So I guess I didn't need to turn off my server. I'll just open up another terminal here, and we're just going to run Python manage.py make migrations. Okay, so it creates the migrations here, and this is now in the users app. So let me close all these out. So within the users app, now we can see these migrations. This is the first migration for this app. And now we can run Python manage.py migrate. It's going to apply those migrations. We want to be able to see this in the admin panel. So before we do that, let's open up the admin panel, and we'll go to /admin. Let's log in here. So let's just go by that name here. I don't remember what my username was. And we don't see the profiles here, so we need to register that. So we'll go into our users app, and we'll go into admin.py. So from here, we want to import the models. So we'll do from.models. So from this app, let's import the profile model. So do profile, and then let's register that. So admin.site.register, and we're going to pass in the profile here. So profile, that should now be registered. Let's take a look here. So let's go ahead and refresh that. And here we go. So we now see a profile. So let's create a profile for the user here. So remember, we created a one-to-one relationship to a user. So how we can specify that from the admin panel is let's go ahead and create one here. So we need to connect it to a user. So we're going to connect this to Dennis Ivy. Now, Dennis Ivy can only have one profile now. So in here, let's just say Dennis Ivanov, and then the email is going to be dennis@email.com. Some kind of intro. I am a full stack dev or developer. Bio, let's just do some lorem ipsum. Actually, we'll just go to my website, DennisIV.com. Let's just take this bio and we'll paste that in here. For the profile picture, what I'm going to do is go ahead and select a profile picture. So let's see, we'll go into the resources folder. I'll go into images. I'll grab my picture. So we hope that this uploads into the right folder. And I'll just throw in my personal website at this point, and let's save that. So now we're connected to my user, Dennis Ivy. So we have a user and a profile. let's make sure the picture was uploaded. So if we go into static, images, and profiles, here we go. Now we have Dennis Ivy, perfect, that worked. Let's create another user to make sure that default is working. So we have a user called John Doe. So let's create some information about John Doe here, or for John Doe, and we'll select John Doe, that's his username, John at email. Let's see. And I just realized I did not add a username field, so we're gonna have to add that. So for now, let's just go ahead and do this. Let's save it, and let's see. Perfect. John Doe was connected to that default user. So really quick, we're actually going to do a few things here. So I'm going to go back to my user model, and I actually want to create a username field here. So that's just going to replicate what's in my user profile, and it's going to make it easier to actually access that. So we're just going to say username, and we're going to go ahead and throw in a char field here, and we're not going to run a migration yet. So this actually works out just fine, because when we run our migrations, it's going to migrate any migrations we have in any app. So if we modify the profiles model here, it's also going to run the migration here. So let's go into, or not profile, but projects here. So if we go into our projects models.py file, so we have two models.py files now. Let's go into this project here, and let's create an owner. So what we're going to do is we're going to say owner, and we want to connect a project to a specific user. So that's going to be this relationship right here. So remember, we have a profile and we have a project, and that's going to be a many-to-one relationship. So to create a many-to-one relationship, we're going to use that foreign key value. So remember, we used that before. So we're going to do owner, and this is going to be models.foreign key. And we need to specify the model that we're going to connect this to. So let's go ahead and go into our user model here, or into the users app. So we're just going to do from users.models, and we're going to import the profile model. So we just went into this models file and we imported that in here. And now that we have that, we can use the profile model in here. So remember, the models can now communicate with each other. And what I want to do is first specify null. So it won't let me run the migration unless I already have something there. So we'll just set null to true. And then we also want to set blank to true. And now on delete, what do we want to do here? So I guess we could just delete the project. Just in case, let's not delete a project. Let's just do this. So on delete, let's just do models.set null. For some reason, maybe we might not want to actually delete a profile or a project of a user. Maybe they deleted their account by default or by accident, and they want to come back and re-register. We still want to have maybe some project information. So now that we did that, we need to run a migration, and that's going to apply this username migration, and it's going to add in this owner to the project. So I'm going to bring this up here. We can run python manage.py, make migrations again, and this is going to tell us that it created a migration for the profile, and it also created a migration for the project. So migrations were added into both apps here. So one into the projects app and one into the users app, because both of them had modifications. Now, when I run python manage.py migrate, it's going to run all the migrations in every single app here. So it's going to go ahead and apply those. And let's quickly just add in or connect some of the projects to a few users and actually render out some information. So at this point, if I go into projects here, we're not seeing an owner here. So they're all connected to Dennis Ivy, but that's a hard-coded value here. So what I'm going to do here is we'll go into the admin panel again. And for now, we'll do this from the admin panel. We can go into a project here, and let's say this profile website is connected to Dennis Ivy, or portfolio website. E-commerce is connected to John Doe. Mumble is Dennis Ivy, and Yoga Vibe is going to be Dennis Ivy, and then Code Sniper is going to be John Doe. Okay, so all the projects now have a user. So we want that to show up here. So they're still all under Dennis Ivy or Ivanov. So let's go ahead and close out these models. And we're going to go into the projects app here, and in templates, we can go into projects here. So where we're listing out all the projects. Now in here, let's scroll to the results here. So dev list, we want to go into for project in projects here. Let's go in here and let's see, where is the user? So by, and then the name here. So here we go. We have Dennis Ivanov here. So let's go ahead and go into project, and we can actually query upwards. So a project has a parent of an owner now. So we'll do dot owner, and we can just do dot owner dot name like this. So let's actually leave it as is. So we just want to display, actually, yeah, let's just do the name here. So we'll just do owner dot name. So we'll output that name value, and let's take a look here. So if I go ahead and refresh that, now we see by John Doe, Dennis Ivy, John Doe, Dennis Ivy, or Dennis Ivanov, and Dennis Ivanov. So that's it for this video. We just added in some information for our user model here. We created a separate app, connected our URLs, and in the next video, what we're gonna do is actually build out and style this page and render out some users here along with the user profile so we can see details about a user.